there are so many former TYT employees, and let's put Doran Rubin aside, but people like Ben Dixon and Emma Vigland, and even longtime contributors who were editors like Hank. I remember Hank, and like the fact that, you know, he helped start the TYT union and now has obviously
nothing.
Okay, but I knew Hank was such a great guy, and Emma and Ben are such. I'm just saying. I'm telling you, these are. But okay, how? I'm afraid, man. Like, I'm next.
I wanted to start that moment off because I just wonder how it is for you. You're sitting there, you're watching a show, you know, Francesca's show, The Bituation Room, Cenk's on there. Everyone was watching, everybody. I mean, thousands of people were tuning in. And then you hear your name, and then there's that callous laugh. And what is probably more than likely a lie. We're saying Hank started nothing. And that is basically the name of your film is Tell the Truth, Cenk. How does it feel for you in that moment to be like, there's another lie, there's less truth, here we go, they're mentioning my name? How's that whole thing feel for you? Is it weird?
It's incredibly weird. Honestly, it's super strange. I wish I could admit I didn't have any like that I was hardened already, or like this, like over all these years I just didn't have a reaction. But it actually stings a decent amount to see that every time. I actually did a whole bunch of a reaction to it on my channel, but I also edited that, and it was like a long edit, and but it's an emotionally odd journey that we're at here with this whole thing. As far as the honesty side of it, he said he helped with nothing, and clearly untrue. I actually went through all the, like, my performance review and all the other ways that I made money for the company, and did.
You have provided fucking receipts, my man. If you were making that up, somebody else would have called you out for mine. There is so much stuff that you have covered. There are so many things that you have brought up, and this is the thing. You catch people in lies when their timeline doesn't line up every time they retell the story, and there's new facts, and oh, you left this part out, this time. You never do that. Like, you're right in line every single time.
It's a very hateful laugh. I don't know anybody that thinks he was, and it's also the sound of a coward, because it's a refuge for someone who is afraid to actually say the words, to say my name out loud, or to actually address the issues. They moved on from that very quickly. It's that kind of, I'm so amused by this, the concept that I might be a great guy amuses me to the point. And then in his eyes is where you really see the kind of person that I think Cenk is, in a sense, because it's, especially as people get their head around why we unionize, you'll understand that his principles in terms of how he treats employees and workers is not the same as what he says to the camera and what people think they're supporting with their fund when they fund him. Which is kind of the core of this whole film project, is like, why did we unionize? When did we unionize? And be truthful. I wouldn't actually necessarily call Cenk a liar for saying I helped with it, just because in the moment he was reacting, you know, like, obviously I did do a lot of work there. Excellent performance reviews. I designed the Bernie Sanders blue t-shirt that people used to see in the live streams. I did a whole bunch of other stuff for the company, as well as like a lot of daily editing, contributed to the company over the years. And, so, but like, it is a dishonest reaction is to say he helped with nothing. But
give us the gist of, and just so everyone knows, like, you knew I was going to play that.
Yeah,
I don't want people to think I was throwing you for a loop.
No,
like,
no,
you're facing this thing head on, which is another sign that there's nothing cowardly about your approach to this. Like, you are being very direct, from the name on down. So if we were in an elevator and I had, 30, 45 seconds till I get to my next floor, and I said, what's your documentary about? What's the elevator pitch? How would you tell me just in a sentence or two what it's about?
I would hit the emergency stop button and then talk for 2 hours.
No, then I'm calling the cops.
I would then tell the cops for 2 hours what it's about. It's a feature-length documentary about the battle for workplace dignity at the home of progressives. That's the what do they call it? The log line? I almost said slug line. That's the log line.
TV guide blurb, because I grew up in that era where you were like, what's on TV tonight? Oh, this guy gets stranded on Mars, fights aliens, gets the girl, goes home. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's PG. I'll watch this. But
Yeah,
like,
gets the penicillin for the VD. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I think a log line or a TV guide blurb is good for folks who don't know it, because this isn't you bitching and moaning. This isn't you being a whiny little ex-employee or whatever. This is a very noble thing that you are doing in the name of unionizing and labor organizing and workers' rights. Correct?
I like to think so. I mean, I feel driven by the same principles. I mean, thank you.
I wouldn't have you on the show if it wasn't that.
I know.
If it was just somebody whining, it'd be like, good luck.
Yeah, like it's the same. It's the sort of the same principles I felt I was going to live when I moved across the country to work for TYT in 2013. Like, I was a fan of the show way back to the O's, and like a paying member for something 3 or 4 years before that, starting in like 2008 or 2009. And through a strange series of contacts and just kind of odd influence on TYT lore, like I'm the person who introduced Jimmy Dore to TYT in 2011, which is, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Straight downhill.
Proof that time travel is not real. And so
for a while there, that was the solid move. I got to tell you.
Well, I was a fan of his show, comedy and everything else, and I was doing stand-up in Chicago, and I was doing video editing and stuff. I had a contact at TYT, and that's how I just kind of had this opportunity. Not that TYT was calling me or anything. It was a big deal to move across the country. It was a huge change in my life. I had a lot to prove because I had to honor the vouch that my friend had offered. So I'm a little bit under the weather this last couple of days, but apologies for the sniffles and stuff. Thank you. It's on the mend. I think I'm doing okay. But so yeah, the notion of speaking truth to power and standing up to for the little guy and calling out the BS in the world and like kind of not too hard to identify a lot of bullshit going on in this planet and on this society back then, these days, always. And I think that's where CENK was able to sort of stake his claim as a progressive, is to be against George Bush and then to be disappointed by Obama and to publicly advocate for higher taxes and Medicare for all and, stuff like that, being cool with gay people, having rights. And like that sort of progressivism is pretty like these days, that's very low bar progressivism, I'd say, but not. I'm not saying I was hoping to stop it at any of those stages, but we've all kind of gone through a maturation process in the last 10-15 years and stuff.
Why stop at being cool with gay people? Let's, you know what I mean? Let's have equal rights for literally everybody.
All people,
why not? Right?
Yeah.
Everything.
Treat people with dignity, respect, fairness,
whatever it is. Like, you're right. You don't just hit pause and go, well, dude, you did it. And you definitely don't go in the other direction, even like behind the scenes. And I think that is pretty much what you've exposed. And that's why it's a personal project for you, but it's not as if you're taking it personal. Like, there's narration. We should show the trailer. Please. It's not that. There's definitely narration, but it's not a narrative. You're not painting a picture, you're illustrating reality. And I think there is a big difference. I think like one can paint a picture and then that's that. And one can continue to expose things. Like every time it comes up to CENK, like you saw how he reacted. Everyone saw that. Like every time it's brought up, it's a different opportunity, or every time he does something, he puts his foot in his mouth. It's a different opportunity for you to add to this narration in your film. And that doesn't mean that you're looking for ways to make shit up. Like, it's all there. But should we look at the trailer?
Yeah, I say that as a thought to what you just said is like, I think partially what he's reacting to in that moment of disgust that he's showing is, like I said, he can't use words because that would just draw more attention. So he only has nonverbal cues or the laughter. Is the presence of accountability. I think that's the kind of thing that he is one of the things that I imagine people of his cohort find very distasteful, is somebody from a lower class, somebody who's stepping out of line, somebody who's not obeying the normal rules of shut up and just take it, skulk away, get treated like crap and move on. And I would have taken some of that. I mean, we're all sort of conditioned to just be, treated with disrespect, low pay, move on, keep your mouth shut. The system will punish you if you speak up. But these were like some substantial ethical boundaries that were crossed as to why we unionized. And then the union busting itself. And then also the lying about the workers as part of the union. So like there's sort of the three core truths that are I want told are that, you know, the union started by workers 18 months before Cenk became a politician, and that I want him to acknowledge to his audience that he told them a story that was not true at all, and they didn't do any fact checking before they put the story out. Which is that, just because I'm heading down this road, sorry, I'm pressing the emergency button in the elevator here, is that he was running for Congress when the union came forward, even though the union organizing had been going on for almost 2 years by that point. And he told his audience through the statements, because he didn't want to really address it directly, he told his audience that outsiders started the union, that his political foes started the union in order to harm his run for Congress, which is wild, which is just going to make. And now he has his substantiation of that would be that IATSE, the union we were joining, endorsed his opponent in the race. So if you just look at the surface level of that, that's enough of a hook to kind of raise an eyebrow. And I even go out of my way in my writings and on Substack and in the film itself to acknowledge that, given the strange nature of the campaign, that's a fair enough reason to ask questions.
And I decided to wake up that union drive, not knowing where it's going to end up, but just being like, I got to do something. It's working for Cenk UYGUR, and I'm not getting any health care, no pay days off, no benefits at all. Felt like I was being forced to carry a dark secret about TYT. I know why we started the union. It was exploitative working conditions. And other workers had their other reasons, and there's probably some of the reasons that will never see the light of day. The first attempt was 18 months before Cenk became a politician. And the union comes forward, and Cenk goes and tells his audience his political foes started the union in order to harm his run for Congress, followed by 2 months of aggressive union busting. Wild story. It was all to hide the truth, create a smokescreen. Because if he had to explain to his audience, oh yeah, my workers did have a genuine union here, they would say, well, what were their grievances? Why were they unionizing? And those are questions he does not want to answer. So I'm going to fucking answer him. That's what this whole thing is.
Allowed to stand up for working class people? The answer is yes! Didn't you see what they did to Cenk UYGUR from the Young Turks? The fish rots from the head down.
And I welcome their hatred.